From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Hope you had a great long weekend. We welcome you to tonight's show, including Kingdom of Nye Radio and Revolution Radio. If you want to take a listen to our archives, they are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. You can rock out to Bumblefoot, read up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire, and much more. Tonight's show is brought to you by the Mighty Moose Beard Oil Company. It's 100% Canadian, 100% natural, taking care of beards around the world. Visit MightyMooseBeard.com. Use promo code SOR2019 today. Tonight we take a look at journalism and how it pertains to the field of ufology and the paranormal. So many times you, the audience, have heard me talk about the number of self-titled journalists there are in this field, or how groups like the To the Stars Academy are trying to control the media narrative when it comes to the subject of UFOs in the mainstream. And this past weekend, I got sucked in. I got heavily involved in a Twitter battle on what a journalist truly is and whether or not they need to be educated or have a field experience to be a real journalist. Are we confusing journalism with blogging and vlogging now? Or are they the same? Joining us tonight is Bruce Claggett. Bruce is a 30-year industry veteran of broadcasting and is currently the top editor at Vancouver's popular News 1130 radio station for the last 17 years. Bruce is an educated man with 2 degrees from the University of British Columbia, and he has also taught journalism at my alma mater, the British Columbia Institute of Technology, which boasts one of the top broadcast journalism programs in Canada. Then at the bottom of hour number 3, I will bring you the SOR News Wire. Mr. Bruce Claggett, high five to you, my friend. Always a pleasure to have you on this show. It's been a few years, but good to have you back.
Well, what a nice introduction, and boy, how many years has it been? I was there when you were just starting up.
Oh, yes. Yes. See, you know what? Tonight will be actually the first time I ever say the radio station that I worked at.
Really?
Really, I've never, ever told the audience.
Oh. Is it a secret?
Well, it kind of is. It's kind of been a secret for a long, long time. But if they put 2 and 2 together, they may be able to find me. But you see, I go by Dave Scott. I went by my original name back then. Well, my real name, I should say. But 'tis, my other last name being so long and Ukrainian. It's
and hard to spell.
Very hard to spell.
Let's be honest.
I'm still having trouble. But I want to just preface to our audience here, okay? With Bruce, okay, there are certain people that I go to when I need a professional opinion. If I need a professional opinion on journalism, I go to Bruce. Because Bruce has the experience, the knowledge, the journalism, and the integrity where I trust his opinion. I will also preface, in full disclosure, I was actually Bruce's best man at his wedding a number of years ago. So,
true.
Thank you for that. But back in 2009, so you had your 10-year anniversary this year, which was awesome.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Did indeed.
So there are certain people that I rely on. So, for instance, if I want something to do with MUFON, I have a couple of insiders inside MUFON that I go to. If I have a question in journalism, Bruce is who I reach out to. There are a number of people that I do that. If I need science, I go to Chris Cogswell, as everybody knows, with his doctorate in chemical engineering, because this is how I learn. This is how I do my studying. And there has been so much talk over the last little while here in regards to journalism, specifically around the paranormal and UFOs, that, Bruce, I felt, that this is a topic that really needed to be discussed. So thank you so much for coming on and discussing it. I know you're not a real UFO guy. You're a ham radio guy on the side, when you're not working your tail off in Vancouver in the media field. But for ufology, you are one of the very rare people who has never shunned this story. You've never really put it at the forefront of broadcast, but you and I have talked about this. you've never really shunned the topic, and we're going to get into that. But first, let's learn a little bit about you. You're an educated guy. You went to UBC. Tell us about your experiences and how you got into journalism.
Oh, that's a good question. It's funny, Dave, because people say, radio. Do you do that for fun or do you do it for a career? And my answer is yes. I'm a ham radio operator, got into it through the technical side of it, interested in the electronics going back when I was in elementary school. And certainly got into it for a career, just coming out and going to BCIT and UBC later, and got an education degree, went back into radio because I loved it. Did a couple other things, went back into radio because I loved it. So radio is the thing first. But I also trained, of course, as a professional journalist. And as a journalist, I'm driven by curiosity. So getting back to your question and talk about what is a journalist. Well, a journalist is someone that's open-minded, curious, and able to look at things from an unbiased professional way and represent the curiosity of those who follow the journalist, whether it's whatever medium they're in, and that's what drives me, Dave. That's what my career has been about. So that leads me to where we are tonight.
Well, how do you look at the way journalism has changed? I mean, you and I, when we worked together, we saw it really shift from journalism in Vancouver, and we started seeing it on television mainly, where we started seeing news going from journalism to infotainment, if we could call it that. That was a big word back then when it started coming out. The big idea was nobody wants to hear the hard news anymore. It's not bringing ratings. We got to get more into infotainment. Almost Entertainment Tonight, National Enquirer type news, but with a slight bit of more professionalism.
Well, that's true, and that still exists now. But there's a business side to the media, and the news media certainly, and then there's a journalism side. I mean, most credible, influential journalists still work for corporations. I know they're independent journalists, and they're journalists doing good work. Working for nonprofit groups or community newspapers or that type of thing. But the ones that have influence and followers typically belong to or work for some big organization. So if it's not state media like what we have here in Canada, what's it going to be? It's going to be a company, and they're going to need to turn a profit. There are only two ways to make profits in the news media. One is to cut expenses, and the other is to increase the amount of revenue coming in. And while it's really difficult to increase revenue coming in a world where we have so much information available for free or spread through social media, websites, different digital channels, so most of it's been cutting, and at the same time maybe doing a little bit of searching for kind of what the cool kids might be into, you might say. And some of that is your information. So it's been a bit of a challenge. And still, there are good journalists out there that maintain that they got into the business because they are curious and open-minded and really want to find out what makes the world go around, what's the unusual, and report it. And that's where I am today.
When you look at the way journalism has changed, though, say over the last 30-plus years that you have been involved with, what has been the improvement and what has been the detriment to the career?
Oh, the improvement is, look, I got into journalism as a radio journalist. And radio, although I love it, and I really do love it, that was it. I was a radio journalist. Well, 30-plus years later, I'm a radio journalist. I've got a big social media following on Twitter at Bruce Claggett, 2 G's, 2 T's. You can follow me there. And, it's I even do some television and work with our company's TV newsroom and social media channels, whether it's through Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or whatever. We're always looking at new ways to reach an audience. And no longer am I just talking about voice work and, having the big radio voice. Those days are gone. Now you have to be able to take pictures. You have to be able to tell a story with video. And all journalists are kind of moving in that direction. So a radio journalist isn't a radio journalist anymore. That journalist is now a radio journalist, a social media journalist, often a TV journalist working for the TV side of the company. TV journalist, quite frankly, is doing all the same. Newspaper journalists often have, Twitter accounts that are very active, social media pages. There are no deadlines like the 6 p.m. news that used to have. That's all changed. It's all real time. Even newspapers, the community newspapers, it's not once a week or twice a week. It's like the next 5 minutes, or when news happens, you're putting it out in social media. So that's the big change. Is it a positive? Absolutely. You're breaking news. I love breaking news. So you're breaking news in real time. Lots of competition out there for breaking news. The downside, and this is what I know we'll be getting into tonight, the downside is who calls themselves a journalist? What is a journalist? What's a professional journalist? And what's some yahoo that decides to go and have a blog or just get on there on a social media channel and create some followers? Is that person a journalist? Well, that's part of the downside, Dave.
Well, and we're going to get into that later on, because I do think that there is a lot of great freelance stuff that is being done here. There is. And I think it doesn't matter whether it's UFOs, paranormal, whether we know a lot of people who've left the news industry to do their own thing, their own blogging, their own vlogging, and they're still breaking stories like they always did when they were working for a major company, except now they're patting their own pockets instead of somebody else's. And that's kind of the way it works. But when you look at the way that stories are formed and the way that the news cycle has become a 24/7 business rather than, the morning drive, the afternoon drive, the 6 o'clock major news, the nighttime news. It's 24/7 now with Twitter, with Facebook, with Instagram, and everything else that goes along with social media. How hard is it to stay in touch? Because when I was in the industry, it was very much confirm your sources before you broadcast anything. And now we see people jumping to the first piece of evidence that they have, and it's creating a lot of kerfuffle because a lot of times that first piece of evidence is wrong.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And we've seen that with even the so-called death of celebrities. Use an example. We have a famous folk artist here in our country, in Canada, and Gordon Lightfoot. Gordon Lightfoot was killed off a couple times on social media, and it was picked up by the mainstream media saying Gordon Lightfoot has died. Let me assure you today, at this moment, Gordon Lightfoot is very much alive. But, you spread one false death or one, and that's an obvious one that you can measure. But that's how everyone wants to be first. They want to tell the secret. Guess what? We just heard. And they'll spread it without confirming it. And boy, I've seen that in information from the death of celebrities to Canadian manhunt with 2 suspects that were found alive when they weren't, and they're later found dead. But these stories often carry a life of their own very quickly, and that's kind of dangerous.
Right. Well, I want to ask you about that, because that was such an important story up here in Canada with the 2 youngsters from Port Alberni, British Columbia, who went on a killing spree and then decided to make the trek. How did you feel that was covered from a mainstream perspective? Because we were following that story here on our own newswire. Captain Shirk had made sure she got stories up on that every day.
Well, that's interesting, and it's funny because I remember. Now, there was a point where they were pretty much, there was a belief it was a Sunday that they found these 2 after a week and a bit, maybe 2 weeks of a manhunt right across Canada, and they're kind of located in a town apparently in Manitoba. There are sightings of them. And then some yahoo decides to go and tell a journalist in Australia that he had seen them at the side of the road, mainstream media picked this up, and one of the radio stations in Vancouver, not ours, had the person on talking about how they saw them at the side of the road and drove by, and there's all this renewed interest they're alive. Well, it turns out to be completely false. They never were there. But everyone wanted to jump on this because it's sensational. And there's this kind of, the more mystique there is about a story, the more mystery, the more compelling, who knows what's out there, the more likely you're going to get everybody trying to be the first to really know what's happening. And suddenly the sources that used to be double-checked and triple-checked back 30 years ago have disappeared. And the journalism, the acumen with journalistic integrity is gone, and people just want to be first. And it spreads very quickly. And you get people saying, well, hey, this organization is reporting that, or that media organization says this. And they think, well, what are we doing? You know, do we have the story? Do we have it wrong? RCMP aren't saying anything in this country. So if they're not saying anything, we've got to find the sources ourselves. And quite often that could be wrong. It's really bizarre. But you see, these are just obvious news type things, but you take that sort of world and then you apply it to the paranormal, and you can see how things can go one way or the other, Dave.
Absolutely, Bruce. And I can see where the sensationalism comes into play, because everybody wants to be the first. There's a little bit of ego that goes along with that. Doesn't matter what time of the year it is, what the subject is. Everybody wants to break a story. There's always a little bit of ego and pride that goes along with that in the mainstream media when it comes to that. But how do we derive a breaking story for our public to know rather than sensationalism? Because every day I look at my listeners and I read on their Facebook pages and their social media, we're getting a lot of sensationalism. It doesn't matter what the topic is now. You know, journalists are using words that have never been used before in order to make and sensationalize the stories. You know, that fake voice and throwing themselves into the story. And to me, it looks hokey. It reminds me of the movie Anchorman, where Brian Fantana would go out on a report, and he was right in there, and it's all about acting now.
Well, let me ask you this, and give me your best guess, Dave. Why do you think a young person today would want to become a journalist?
Oh, goodness.
I got you there, didn't I?
I would say, to be absolutely blunt, the popularity. Their name is public, and there's something to go along with that. That people are listening to them. They become almost authoritarian because they're in the know, they're in the newsroom, they're in the war room. Like, I remember 9/11, man, when 9/11 hit and we were all bunkered down in the newsroom trying to help out each other to figure out what was going on. You know, I mean, that was some of the most insane times I've ever had in my professional career, and I hope I never have to do that again. It was stressful. I think we were all there. The minimum shift there was probably 12 to 14 hours. It was crazy that day.
Well, fast forwarded to today. How would a young person measure their success as a journalist starting out? Is there a measurement for them?
Twitter followers?
Yes, absolutely. And if it's not Twitter, it's whatever social media channel they're using. Twitter is for old folks. There's Instagram for pictures, and there's half a dozen other apps that are more popular now than Twitter. But it all comes down to followers and influence. And boy, it's instant gratification. Now, this is something that's learned in high schools. I mean, it comes from your social circles. And if, nobody is immune to that. Most kids going, into adulthood have already been in some form, very active in their own journalism channels. But those channels are social media, and they know what it's like to get likes and followers, and now suddenly there's a profession or a career out there. So that drives a lot of the thinking behind new journalists coming in, and it has for the last 10 years. That's something to be aware of. Is it the case for all journalists? No. Are there fantastic, great new journalists coming in? Yes. But is there something to be aware of? And is there something to be kind of cautious about? Absolutely. Take it back to the business side, and media outlets today are still grabbing onto this notion that the vast majority of money is derived from the 25 to 54 demographic. So they want to get people in that sort of demographic to follow them, and they do so by reaching out to try to be cool. It's kind of like Grandpa going to a concert and putting on his shirt from the concert, and Grandpa suddenly is trying to be a cool kid. Well, it doesn't quite work out that way, does it? But, media outlets are still trying their best to do it, but it's not their game. And this is kind of a change. So this is the world we find media going in. And is it a challenge? Absolutely.
But wouldn't people say that your thoughts are antiquated, as we got about 90 seconds to go before break?
Antiquated or iconic? I don't know. I like to go for the latter. But, absolutely, there are people that would say they're the thoughts of, I'm in my 50s now, early 50s, but in my 50s. And are they antiquated? Yeah, probably. But you know what? It comes down to one thing, truth. And as a journalist, I believe in truth. I believe in curiosity and exposing and holding accountability or holding people to account, but I still want truth. And, that's something we should talk more about.
Well, I think their accountability and truth needs to go both ways, because it's very difficult to establish. It's very difficult to establish trust. It's very difficult to establish the ground rules because people, Bruce, feel burnt by journalists these days because of the bias that is happening, especially on the national level with a lot of different broadcast companies. They don't need to be brought forward or anything like that, but we do see it happen, right? And we see it happen a little bit too much, but I think it's just something that we need to take a look at. I'm going to get you to hold on here because we are going to go to break at the bottom of the hour here. Bruce Claggett is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. He is news editor for News 1130 Radio in Vancouver, British Columbia. You can follow him on Twitter at Bruce Claggett. That's 2 G's, 2 T's. We're going to get into media trust and UFOs coming up next on Spaced Out Radio.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know little brother is watching.
Move over, brother, and let me own Saturday night. This is Rich Giordano, and I'm inviting you to tune on in to Spaced Out Saturdays starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern, where I'm going to bust open the lids on everything paranormal. Why? Because we want answers, and I'm the guy who's going to deliver those answers to you. Join the chat rooms, and we'll see you this Saturday. Just be there. No, really.
Finish off your weekend and kick off your new week with me, Everett Thiemer, right here on Spaced Out Sundays. I'm going to bring you great guests, a little bit of snark, and plenty of information to think about. But don't worry, there's going to be plenty of woo as well. We are going to hit everything in the paranormal and supernatural, including the odd Psychic Sundays. So tune us in on Sunday, 9:06 p.m. Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Every night on Spaced Out Radio, we have places for you to hang out. Hi, this is Carl. Join our SOR Space Travelers group on Facebook for live chat. On Twitter, using hashtag Spaced Out Radio, you can also join us in our Spreaker chat room. Check us out on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR. All of our archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. By the way, I'll be watching you at your window until you do. Bye!
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you having encounters with the paranormal, supernatural, or ufological that you cannot explain? Look no further than the SOR Sightlines Report, brought to you by the Experiencers Support Association. This is Ryan Stacy, head of the Research Association, TESSA. Soon on the Spaced Out Radio website, you'll be able to file your reports and have them researched for you. We are independent and ready to help Spaced Out Radio listeners today.
Coming up this September 21st and 22nd, all UFO eyes will be focused on Toronto for the 4th Annual Alien Cosmic Expo. Come listen to some of the biggest names and experiencers in ufology. Travis Walton, Paul Hellyer, Richard Dolan, Paula Harris, Grant Cameron, Randy Kramer, and Spaced Out Radio's own Dave Scott. Tickets are on sale now at aliencosmicexpo.com.
Looking for the stories of the strange and weird that you will find hard to find anywhere else? Check out the SOR Newswire on our website. Our writers, led by Captain Shirk, are scouring the world for the oddest and most bizarre stories we can find. Everything from weird crime to suspenseful and paranormal. We're working hard for you to bring you the most intriguing news of your day. Check out the SOR Newswire at spacedoutradio.com today. Come get spooked at the 4th Annual Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar Woolley, Washington, Saturday, September 28th. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. Speakers include Mike Morin and Jason Jordan, R. Keith Andrews, and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and so much more. There will be workshops and a VIP roundtable. Get early bird tickets now at fmparacon.com. Welcome back to the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Great to have each and every one of you with us. Reminder, if you've missed portions of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire, which is updated daily. Tonight we are talking journalism. We are talking the pros, the cons, and how to cover a story. What makes a journalist? Now, I had to find one of the guys that I know who's, in my opinion, one of the best out there. His name is Bruce Claggett. He's news editor for News 1130 Radio in Vancouver. And a preface, I did work with Bruce for a number of years, and he's one of the experts that I go to when I need my questions answered. Bruce, welcome back to the show.
Oh, good to be back.
Right before the break, we were talking about how a lot of the public does not trust anybody in the field of journalism. They feel that they are a bunch of hacks. They feel that they are a bunch of storytellers who don't do research. They feel that they are swayed politically, as we see on a lot of national level programs, especially in the United States, where the majority of our listeners are. Let me rephrase this. Do you think that the public has the right to be upset with the way journalism has turned over the last 25, 30 years?
Yes and no.
Why?
Well, I'm going to say this, and this is where we as journalists have to be held to account. Journalism dropped the ball on several major things. And going back to 9/11, where were the stories, the lead up, the investigations, the thought? 9/11 was a huge surprise. Journalists are supposed to hold governments to account and find out things and do some investigation, and it didn't happen. And suddenly they're caught by surprise in an American public, the world public. And the follow-up thereafter was not great either. There were major letdowns, the economy crashing in 2008. Where were the journalists in finding out what was going to happen before some of the leading financial institutions in the United States ran into huge problems? And the stock market fell, and everybody lost life savings all at once, and we had the mortgage crisis, and yet there was no journalism that led up to it. So, I mean, you know what? Journalists let the public down. And for that, I think there is a segment of people that will never forgive the profession. So that is one side of it. And journalists forget that. I mean, they always say, you know, it's... we get picked on. We get picked on by this government and that government and the politicians that don't trust us and the public that's unfairly mocking us and it's not fair. Well, it's based in something. And when it comes down to it, there's a big public out there that will say, yeah, you know what? I may not trust these organizations or these people with information, but I trust them more than I trust the journalists. And that's a reality. And you might not like it as a journalist, but that exists, and it exists today. And there's still a lack of holding governments to account in certain areas. There's a lack of journalistic integrity in some areas. There are infomercials that make themselves into stories. There are things that really shouldn't be news making its way into news. There's clickbait in social media channels. All these type of things really kind of hit at the essence of what journalism really should be. So in that way, yes, journalism has, as a profession, let people down. And there should be some people out there that are highly suspicious of reporters, the news media, and journalists. But is it the end answer? No. I mean, are there good journalists out there? Yes. Do we exclude journalism from the democracy that we live in? Absolutely not. We just have to be better as journalists. That's what it comes down to, Dave.
Is it a dying career?
No, it's not a dying career. And that's a great question. Is it a dying career? No. But you know what? This is what, and it doesn't matter if it's Canada or the United States or anywhere in the world, this is what you need to be doing in schools. You need to have courses in your social studies classes that teach students, kids, how to take in news media, how to be educated in really understanding what news media is and what it isn't, and how to really get information from journalists. And if you do that, and if there's an appreciation for that, and some talk about what is the difference between an editorialist and a journalist, and I'll tell you that most of your audience tonight could not tell me the difference between a reporter and an editorialist and get the two confused, and we'll throw that around. And there's a big difference. You got to put that into education, and it's got to start early. And if you do that, journalism will live, and there is a place for it, as there is a place for bloggers, and as there is a place for people that want to have their own content on social media, but are smart enough and have the ability to say, I'm not a journalist, but I am a person living in a democracy with an opinion and doing some research, and I'm proud enough, and I've got the ability to say, yeah, I'm not a journalist, but I'm okay. I'm proud, and this is my information. Don't try to claim you're a journalist. Just give out the information you have, and the better ones, the better bloggers are the ones that say, no, I'm not a journalist. They don't have to pretend to be a journalist. They don't have to play the game of, oh, I'm a journalist. No, you're not. But they're giving good information.
Marty on Twitter, who is one of our favorite veterans who listens to this show, thank you for serving, Marty. He is stated that, he goes, Dave, the problem with news journalism today, especially in the United States, if a story does not fit into a person's preconceived belief system, regardless of its merits, it is considered fake news by that person. How do you get around that factor?
So what is fake news? Is fake news the news we don't like? Because if it's the news we don't like, and if we put on the label of fake news, well, you can get rid of a whole bunch of things. I can have somebody go on and say, Bruce Claggett is not a basketball star and will never be in the NBA. I could, take great offense to that and say, hey, fake news. Or I could just say, you know what? I don't like that, but it's a reality. Fake news can't be news we don't like. It can't be opinions we don't like. It can't be people reporting things that we would rather not have out there. Fake news, if that's what we're talking about, well, that's an issue. I don't know. It's a little bit off topic, Dave, but you mentioned that, and that gets the backs up of many journalists when they start to hear that term.
All right. When I had George Knapp on this show, and I know you're a follower of George Knapp, so am I. All right. And we had a great interview for a couple of hours where we talked about UFOs. We talked about everything from Bob Lazar working at Area 51 to the Stars Academy. And he was very gracious with his time. He allowed me to ask anything. He said, everything's on the record. Let's go for it. And one of the topics that we got into was journalism. And he brought up the topic, or he brought up the saying when I asked him what he thought, because in the UFO media, the paranormal media, there are a lot of people who are selling themselves as journalists, even though they have never worked for a journalism company before. Now, the people that I'm talking about are, they were using the term investigative journalism. They were investigative journalists. These are people who have gone on to talk at a lot of conferences, people who have gone on to talk on a lot of radio shows, television shows, so on and so forth. And my argument to George, and he kind of concurred with that, was the fact that if you are selling yourself as something you aren't, how can the public trust your research?
Well, you can call yourself anything you want, too. I mean, I barbecued a pretty nice piece of chicken tonight and fed my son. I'm not a chef, but I guess I could call myself a chef, and I could tell all my friends, yeah, you know what, I'm a chef, because guess what? I barbecued some pretty good chicken.
But one of the topics and the terms that George came up with on this show was he talked about the importance, Bruce, of citizen journalism. These are people who have an interest in journalism. They have been able to write down a lot of facts. Maybe some of them have written books. Maybe some of them have taken this as a great expanse to what we consider blogging and vlogging. And he believed that it was very important for the public to be a part of the journalism process as well with this new age of social media that we've experienced the last 20 years and continues to grow. So my question to you is, what's wrong with somebody being a citizen journalist who is getting the facts, maybe the way a trained journalist would be, and using that title citizen journalist rather than a journalist? Is there a difference?
Well, it's not 2005. That's the problem. This term citizen journalist was really popular about 15 years ago, and we've moved on. The fact is, the term citizen journalist, not the notion or the concept or whether it's right or wrong, the term citizen journalist was really popular, and a lot of people were thinking, you know what, we're going to be onto all our social media channels, mostly Twitter at the time, and we're going to be giving our experiences and our opinions and taking our pictures and sharing them. That came about at a time when technology was such that cameras and phones were kind of a new thing. It wasn't really new, but it was at the point where it could be spread and people were able to take pictures and start talking about things. And we thought 15 years ago that citizen journalism was going to be the way of the future. Well, fast forward to coming up to 2020. You don't have much talk about citizen journalism so much. You do have accounts of people sharing certain things, and professional journalists that take those accounts and sift through them and hold them, hold the ones that seem to be kind of real up to some degree of scrutiny and share them. And some of them get shared themselves and called out pretty quickly. But the whole notion of citizen journalism is very much dated because it turned out to be a lot of people taking pictures that were kind of like, it may or may not be what they said it was going to be. Certainly their skin in the game got exposed very quickly. And citizen journalism per se didn't turn out to be for the citizens. It turned out to be for a small group of people with pretty definite ideas, sharing a lot with other people of like minds, and that's about it. It never took off.
All right. So Mike on Twitter, and usually I wait until hour 2 to take questions, but since we're talking about this, Mike on Twitter says, who's qualifying what constitutes as a real journalist, though?
Well, who constitutes as what qualifies as a real chef or a real athlete? Nobody at all. It comes down to who gets hired and paid money to do it, and the ones that get paid for it usually are pretty good at doing it, and there is some skill involved in taking a look at things and presenting them in a certain way that gets mass appeal and trust. And a lot of people out there are going to say, that guy is just talking like they all talk. Well, mass appeal and trust and everything is important. And that's how ideas get spread. It's not by small groups of people that think that they have all the answers and are trying to push one sort of thought. If they want to call themselves journalists, that's fine. What they are is content marketers. And there's a whole world for that right now. And, go to Cleveland, go to Content Marketing World and start sharing your stories there. It's underway right now. But you're not a journalist. A journalist is something completely different.
Okay, so what about somebody who learns about it on their own? All right, they've studied the techniques. They may not have worked at a major market. They may not have worked at a small market. They may have never worked in the media in their lives. But all of a sudden, they start asking a few questions, and you know how the stories go. All of a sudden, Bruce, you get somebody who comes up to you and they've been reading what you're saying. They like what they've been following your blog or your social media posts, and all of a sudden, they say something to you. And you break a story, and then you get more information, because that's how the ball rolls when you're working in a newsroom. But what happens if it's somebody who isn't trained, who all of a sudden is enjoying this hobby, and they start getting this really high quality information, start writing about it, and building that reputation as somebody who can be trusted with their writing? What does that constitute?
Many different things. Call themselves a researcher. Call themselves a witness. Call themselves, anything they want. Why do you want to call yourself a journalist, especially? And here's the interesting question I have. All these people that hate mainstream journalism are the first ones that want to declare themselves journalists. Hey, look, you don't even like journalism. Why go for that label? Why don't you just call yourself a witness? Why don't you call yourself who you are, or someone that's interested in this topic, and just put out a very honest thing? Why do you have to call yourself a journalist? You don't like journalists. The thing is, they're secretly jealous, and there's a lot of jealousness involved in that.
Jealousy? I never would have looked at it that way, because I'll tell you,
it's a lot of jealousy. Because why would you even want to call? What is a journalist? I mean, a journalist is somebody that journals or kind of records something, and I like to think of a journalist as someone who is unbiased, does not necessarily believe in one thing, if it's politics, left or right, questions both sides, holds people to account, looks for the curiosity in the world, asks really good questions. That's all part of journalism, and usually the best journalists I've ever known can go one way or the other on any topic and are the best listeners. They're not necessarily the best tellers. They will ask questions and hear the best answers and present information in an unbiased way with no skin in the game. They're not representing any one view. They're asking questions about things that they see, and then they're on to the next. Now, if you get someone that is always hammering away at certain topics and holding on to these topics and presenting things in this one, is that a journalist or is that an advocate? Is it someone that is a stakeholder in an idea, or is it a journalist? I would say it's not a journalist. If you've got such passion and dedication to your subject, be proud of that. There's nothing wrong with that. But as a journalist, you're working in a field that's often not rewarding in any one sense, except for that you're constantly questioning everything and accepting opinions on both sides. And that's what's missing from some of these bloggers and social media folks that like to call themselves journalists. Well, they're not. They're representing the views of a very narrow pocket of people, and they want to really present that and push very hard at that. And I know a lot of them are so angry right now at hearing me say that and saying, oh, that's so typical. But really, what's wrong with just saying, hey, I believe this, and it's important for me to get my information out. I've been researching this. Be an expert. Don't be a journalist. Be an expert. Isn't an expert so much more important than a journalist?
Well, that's the tough part about it, right? As we got about 2 minutes here before we got to go to break at the top of the hour. And I got to laugh because your voice doppelganger, Chuck, is now tuning in, the owner of KZFX and KDUN Radio, which absolutely cracks me up. He just messaged me saying, so I hear, listening to you guys talk together. One of these days, I got to get you and him on the air at the same time. That'll just crack me right up. I really do. But in regards, okay, to some of the work that they are doing, it's just, a lot of people out there, Bruce, will say, well, it's just a term, man. It's like, what's the big deal? What's the big deal if I call myself a journalist, whether I'm a citizen journalist, whether I'm a blogger, a vlogger, I'm doing journalistic work. Why can't I call myself a journalist if that's what I'm doing?
Well, because you're not doing journalistic work. You're an advocate.
What if it doesn't come with biasness?
Well, that'd be interesting. Usually it does. In my experience, it does come with a whole pack full of bias, and that's what drives people with such passion to take the one position and take on journalism and be a journalist in their own way. But I'll tell you, as a journalist, here's the boring side of it. I have to cover multiple topics that I have no interest in whatsoever, but I know there's an audience out there. That's a professional journalist. And I will go in with as much vigor as possible because in my profession, I cover stories. I cover stories that are interesting to my audience. That's what I do. I question. I go in with a curiosity. I hold people to account, even if I don't care so much about that story. Now, what they're talking about is something they care very deeply about, but they're an advocate for their position, and that's not a journalist. Could be an expert, could be somebody that's put a lot of passion and research into it, and they should be proud of that, but it's not journalism.
Well, we're going to get into journalism here coming up here on Hour 2 of Spaced Out Radio with Bruce Claggett as our guest tonight on the show, because I want to talk UFOs. This is very important, and I know you're up on this, Bruce, because the UFO topic has come through your newsroom as well. Is it important? Are we doing a good way? Sorry, we got about a minute here. My clock kind of messed up there, but we got about a minute here. But I think it's important that we start getting into the topic of UFOs, because this is becoming a hot-button topic that many professional journalists out there have not wanted to touch with a 10-foot pole. We got 45 seconds.
Things are changing, and I'm going to rock your world with a couple different stories on how they are.
Well, I'm looking forward to it, because for so long, this topic was laughed at, was ignored. I've been in the newsroom when it's happened, and there's still a lot of dinosaurs out there who are still looking at that and treating the subject as such. Does the new wave of journalism... Go ahead.
There is, and if you are curious about your world, you better take a look at UFOs, the paranormal, and ask yourself, what are we not asking? What don't we know? And there's something there.
Well, we're going to get into that. Hour 2 of Spaced Out Radio is coming up here. Bruce Claggett is with News 1130 Radio in Vancouver. He is the station's news editor, and he does a pretty darn good job. Former colleague of mine, somebody I go to when I have journalism questions as well. Follow him on Twitter at Bruce Claggett, 2 G's, 2 T's. Hour 2 of Spaced Out Radio coming up right after this. Come get spooked at the 4th Annual Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar-Woolley, Washington, Saturday, September 28th. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. Speakers include Mike Morin and Jason Jordan, R. Keith Andrews, and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and so much more. There will be workshops and a VIP roundtable. Get early bird tickets now at fmparacon.com. The Call of the Wild is in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is one of the hottest bars and restaurants in the city. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose will rock you like a hurricane all night long. Great food with everything on the menu at $6.95 near the corner of Nelson and Granville. Get your horns up and come rock with us. The Moose Vancouver, the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio. We're bringing you something new to the documentary world. Beyond the Spectrum will take you on an historic tour of topics like no other. Sasquatch, UFOs, government secrecy, and more, keeping you on the edge of your seats through the eyes of legendary truth seekers like Steve Bassett, Richard Dolan, Dr. Jeff Meldrum, and Jack Kasher. Head on over to Amazon Prime or Tubi TV and check us out. Please leave a comment for the filmmakers on their film's Amazon page.
Canada's largest UFO conference is ready to roll in Toronto this September 21st and 22nd at the Alien Cosmic Expo. This year is about the experience. Listen to the stories of Dave Scott, Travis Walton, Paula Harris, Grant Cameron, Ryan Stacey, Richard Dolan, Leslie Mitchell-Clark, and more. Get your tickets now at aliencosmicexpo.com.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Looking for the stories of the strange and weird that you will find hard to find anywhere else? Check out the SOR Newswire on our website. Our writers, led by Captain Shirk, are scouring the world for the oddest and most bizarre stories we can find. Everything from weird crime to suspenseful and paranormal. We're working hard for you to bring you the most intriguing news of your day. Check out the SOR Newswire at spacedoutradio.com today.
A little bit of science, a little bit of skepticism. Add a dash of snark and you have the makings of Spaced Out Sundays with me, Everett Thiemer. Together we will look into the reality of the paranormal with an open eye and rational thought. Oh, did I mention there'll be plenty of woo as well? Your time spent with Spaced Out Sundays will make the night even better. The chat rooms are open, 9:06 p.m. Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Come hang out with Spaced Out Radio, where we own the night. This is Carl. You can follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, and during the show, use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio to chat with us live. On Instagram, at Dave Scott SOR. On Facebook, give our page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. SOR archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. Come join us, or I will come join you. See you at your window.
Hi, this is Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we store all of the SOR show archives for free. And as an added bonus, every 2 weeks I'm posting brand new content on Cryptid Tales, where I will get into some of the spookier legends and folklore from around the world and tell the stories that go with them. Find us at youtube.com/spacedoutradio and check out Cryptid Tales today. Drop a comment and let me know what you want to hear. See you there.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
We are getting ready to relaunch the SOR Space Travelers Club at spacedoutradio.com. For $5 a month, you can join us for a plethora of features found nowhere else. Hang out in a private chat room during the show and after party. You can check out some exclusive content and a store specifically for you, as well as a private listener forum where you can post your thoughts, stories, and pictures. The SOR Space Travelers Club, coming soon to spacedoutradio.com.
Are you having encounters with the paranormal, supernatural, or ufological that you cannot explain? Look no further than the SOR Sightlines Report, brought to you by the Experiencers Support Association. This is Ryan Stacy, head of the Research Association, TESSA. Soon on the Spaced Out Radio website, you'll be able to file your reports and have them researched for you. We are independent and ready to help Spaced Out Radio listeners today.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
Come hang out with me, Little Richie G, as I take over the airwaves on Spaced Out Saturdays. This is Rich Giordano, and I'm going to bring you the most fun on the radio you can have with your clothes on. We're going to get to the heart of the subjects from UFOs to what's going on in the paranormal and everything in between. So come join me at spacedoutradio.com, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, for the fastest 3 hours of your week.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for being with us. We want to say hello to our terrestrial affiliates, KDNF, AM 1560 in Dangerfield, Texas, UPRN 107.7 FM in New Orleans, WQEE 99.1 FM in Noonan, Georgia, KDUN AM 1030 in Reedsport, Oregon, and in Ridgecrest, California, KZFX 93.7 FM. On the digital side, hi to everyone listening in on Kingdom of Nye Radio and Revolution Radio. Great to have you with us. Don't forget, you can check out our archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Gaudiloquent. Gaudiloquent is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including Rocking Out to Bumblefoot. You can read up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire, which is updated daily, and so much more. Journalism and UFOs. It's a hot-button topic that's been going on since December 16th. 2017, when the New York Times released a very, very ominous report about the Pentagon researching UFOs. Talking journalism tonight because this is a story where many, including myself, believe and have opined, I don't use opined enough on this show, that the narrative is being controlled in the mainstream media. To talk about this is news editor Bruce Claggett, who has 30 years of journalism experience. He's been an instructor at the British Columbia Institute of Technology in their broadcast journalism department, works for News 1130 Radio out of Vancouver, British Columbia. Bruce, welcome back.
You used opine, now you need a tweed jacket. This is a Dave Scott I don't know.
I know. It is, I know. Probably an ascot as well.
And a cup of tea. Are you going to have a cup of tea now? No,
I'm not. I do have a glass of iced tea here, though. I am drinking iced tea tonight. Does that work?
There you go.
All right.
I don't know.
Bruce, first off, I've asked everybody who has journalism experience who's come on this show this question. Have you ever had a government official work in your newsroom telling you what you can and cannot broadcast? Because there is a real sense of belief in many conspiratorial communities that every newsroom has a government official in it stating what can and cannot go on air, especially when it comes to controversial subjects?
No.
I would agree with that. So define your answer no, though, because you were very affirmative with that. Why do you think people have that opinion?
Okay, two things I'll tell you, and then I'll give you more than the short answer with a long pause. First of all, no, I've never had a government official tell me what I can or can't say. I've never had a corporate leader, somebody above me, and I'm a manager, but somebody above me say that I have to bend the news to a certain narrative. Those things have never happened. Does that mean that there aren't influences? Does that mean that there aren't media spin doctors working within government? There aren't corporate decision makers that guide things all the time? No, they do. And it happens. It happens a lot. We see police agencies, first responders in Canada, often not communicating in a timely manner. Why is that? Well, probably because they have to get things checked out, their narrative and their communication checked out by their leaders. So there is decision-making happening before you ever come to a release from a government official. Something has gone through some sort of channels, and it is political. So yes, official information, officialdom, does take a certain amount of screening, and that happens before official word comes out from all those government agencies that we trust. And corporations are the same way. But you know what? Is the job of a journalist to do a little bit more, do some digging, ask some other questions, ask if that information is right, if there's more to it, if the slant or the bend on it needs to be questioned? Absolutely.
All right. So this is one of the things that I have told my listeners, and please correct me if I'm wrong. And if I'm wrong, I will admit it right here. All right. I have told my listeners over and over, numerous times, that when it comes to the UFO subject, the media has never wanted this story. They have made fun of this story. They have always used the X-Files or the Star Trek or the Twilight Zone theme song, and usually when the story is complete, it's followed by a snarky quip, followed by some laughter. We've seen that on television and heard it on radio numerous times. I've also said that when it comes to this story of UFOs, they've never wanted it. And when a journalist doesn't want a story or doesn't like a story, what they do when they're forced to cover something that they do not like, they throw a bunch of softball questions. The example I had was when my former sports director, Rary, used to always make me cover soccer. Well, you know firsthand.
Lady soccer, not just soccer.
Exactly. But you know firsthand my loathing of soccer. And when I would go in there, you would ask the softball questions on the game or the practice or the game coming up or whatever it was, because you wanted to get in and out as quickly as possible because you thought it was a waste of your precious time. And I thought of it that way. So my question to you in regards to all of this is, was the media prepared for this story? Because a lot of the questions that need to be asked in regards to the topics of ufology are not being asked.
True. And no, I don't think the media is prepared. Let's be honest. There are certain things, certain topics that for whatever reason, it's seen by many members of the media as being right, that you can make fun of it. You can do a story about UFOs or somebody's experience seeing something or witnessing something, but you notice that sometimes you've got the X-Files music that's put into the background, or a little bit of a laugh, or if it's in a newscaster, anchors afterwards having a little chuckle over it. You got to ask yourself, really? Why are you doing that? What's so funny about that? If you had somebody witnessing a social justice issue and reporting it and saying they saw this happen, would you have a little chuckle about that? The answer is probably no. You wouldn't dare do that. So somebody, a real person, a fellow citizen, a member of our community, comes forward with some information. Can we mock it? I've never been comfortable with that, to be quite honest. I just don't. I think that there is something that still needs to be learned in the mainstream media when it comes to how we treat certain stories. And that's a clear example for me. And I think many of your listeners should say, yeah, that's not right. That is absolutely not right.
So in your newsroom, when the topic of UFOs started gaining traction, did you run it?
Yep. Yeah,
what was the reaction?
Now here's the other thing with it, and I like to hope that we keep an open mind to any story. Now, there may be stories of somebody's account that won't make the news. There are lots of things that don't make the news because it just doesn't have a mass appeal to a lot of our audience. And we're still in a populist media. We still will tell the stories that people are interested in hearing, and sometimes they're not interested in hearing it. So let's just say that there is a little bit of a gatekeeper there. And so if it's a story that doesn't take place in our city, or if it doesn't take place, it's got to be weighed against every other story out there. People always ask, hey, Bruce, what is the most important story that you can tell today? Or what are the most important stories that you put into a newscast? And I always say, I can't give you an answer to that. Why not? Tell me, what are the most important stories? I said, well, it's like saying to a chess player, what is the best chess move? It depends on the other pieces that are on the chessboard. Depends on the other stories that are out there. I mean, lining up a newscast and selecting certain stories is something that takes a certain amount of skill and a certain amount of in touch with an audience. But that is never an excuse to start to dismiss something or make fun of it, or if you do run it as a kicker at the end of a newscast with a good little chuckle at the end. To me, that's you just don't do that. It's not right. And I think that's what we've got to get away from.
I can understand that, and I can appreciate that in regards to the fact that when people are uncomfortable, or journalists are uncomfortable in talking about certain types of stories, that they do throw the softball questions because they don't know how to react to it. But one of the things when it comes to UFOs that has absolutely rocked me is the fact that the way the mainstream media has handled this story, that they haven't really dug deep into it. Because, in my opinion, you have to look at the past in order to get to the future. And yes, there's some exciting things happening. All right, but I'm going to give you an example here. Okay, when the videos released by the To the Stars Academy came out about the UFOs on the USS Nimitz, back in April of this year, there was a note, a press release by the United States Navy that said the Navy has never kept any type of information like this before from its pilots or its crew members, and they want to establish a place for these reports to come in so that way they can start taking them a little bit more seriously. Yet not a single reporter out there, Bruce, asked the United States Navy, how did the 2004 videos come out then if you weren't saving this information? That's an important question. Would you not agree?
Well, sure it is. Absolutely. And you got to take a look at the media. There are reporters that cover stories of different types. And I think there is a place, certainly, to do a little bit more questioning and a little bit more investigation, especially on stories that, we have a curiosity about. We don't have the answers. And if we don't have the answers, who does have the answers? Or who knows more than we do? And what are we doing to press them to give us as much information as possible? And if the answer is from them, the experts, the government, if the answer is there's nothing to see, move along, at least put them on record. And sometimes I think that journalists aren't doing that. You know what? I'm not going to be a defender of journalists when it comes to that. There are still questions that need to be asked. And that's one area where I think, especially for national reporters working for national newscasts, where it fits into the genre of different things, I'd rather hear about that than a cat fashion show. But that's just me. I don't know. I think there is still a certain amount of bias or a certain amount of almost like a put down of anything that is too far out there. And we're allowed, or we give ourselves permission to make fun of it. That's not right.
So where would you grade the mainstream media in their reporting of UFOs?
No, it depends. Here's the thing. First of all, let me be honest. I have reported UFOs. We've put it into our newscast locally in Vancouver. The way it's handled is, and this is quite fair, we've had numerous phone calls tonight from people spotting something that looks like this. This expert with, and usually it's the planetarium here, or somebody says it could be this, but there's still no answer. If you have any other sightings or something, share with us. We've done those, and those stories are popular. Some media outlets won't do it at all. But I think there is a place for it. And why is there a place for it? Because people are talking about it. There is a case last year where there was a glow in Delta, which is just south of the Fraser River, right near the coast here in Vancouver, just north of the 49th parallel, a municipality. And this lighted glow was seen from Highway 99 by a lot of people. There's some speculation it may have been from greenhouses, but that was quickly dismissed. There's still no answer to it, but a lot of people asking questions about what this light, kind of a green light and green glow was. And am I going to ignore that? Absolutely not. Why would I ignore that, especially if I'm getting phone calls, if I'm getting a lot of people talking about it? And look, what I'm doing in the newsroom is I'll say, hey, where are you calling from? You're calling from this neighborhood. Where are you calling from? Take a look if it's different geographic areas, different demographics, and lots of different accounts from a widespread or wide scope of people, and they're all reporting the same thing. Something's going down. I don't have to have an answer, but I do have to report that something is spotted and has been seen, and there may be a reasonable explanation, but I don't have it. And that's okay not to have it. What's not okay is to say, oh, you're a kook, and I don't care if you saw something. I don't care if the other 10 people that don't know each other phoned the newsroom and also saw something. I'm not going to report it because, well, it's a UFO. And those days need to be over.
What happened to the follow-up question? And I'll give you an example. I have been very hard on the To the Stars Academy, led by Tom DeLong. Mm-hmm. And you'll understand when I say this. In journalism, our job is to find the red flags. When things aren't adding up, we need to question those when red flags come up. My first red flag with this group was their press list press conference to introduce themselves on October 11th, 2017. From there, they denied many media outlets outside of a few and the mainstream any media requests. Still to this day, I have an email from their PR company, which I haven't released yet. I will be doing that soon. Yeah, showing that when I did not want to provide a list of questions for them, that was a big no-no. Right? And to me, those are red flags. Because to me, on the journalist side...
To me too.
Okay, so why is it a red flag to you?
Is because you're controlling the narrative. That is a group that wants to control the narrative and is they're not going to like this, and I know there are people that are listening that aren't going to agree with me, but popularity of their take is more important than the information that they're seeking and giving out. When it comes to questions, a list of questions, anybody, I don't care if it's somebody in public relations or someone that's a politician, when they ask me or somebody that I hire in my newsroom for a list of questions, the answer is no. We are journalists. We're going to ask you questions. Be prepared. Their position is, yeah, but we don't trust the mainstream media. That's why. Don't care. Don't care. That's our job, is to ask questions. You come prepared. You come prepared to face our reporter who's going to ask some tough questions. That is their job. We're not in advertorials, advertisements, and getting information out that's paid for, or a group's position that's just a public service announcement. That's not what we do. We're not part of that game. We're journalists. And there's a right for people to ask something. We're a member of an estate. And there's a long tradition of people in democracy respecting journalists to ask and expecting them and to ask certain tough questions. So you're right. They've never give a list of questions to somebody that says, no, I want your questions.
The problem is there are people out there who believe that this group should control the narrative because they are dealing with such highly sensitive topics. I mean, they are delving into some of the deepest secrets of the United States government. So is there ever a reason to allow a controlling of a narrative?
No. No, it's quite simple. The answer is no. And it's all right for anybody to say, no, I'm not going to answer that question. Absolutely everything right. You might ask a follow-up question, why aren't you going to answer that question? But to say, no, I want your questions in advance, basically what that's saying is we're going to screen it. We're going to determine if your questions are worthy. We're going to make an opinion of you and where you're coming from, and then we're going to decide whether we're going to grant you an interview based on the questions, whether we, well, come on, what are we dealing with here? There comes a point where you just say no. And that's right away. You do not allow questions to be screened by anyone you're ever interviewing. And if you're getting into that game, you're getting away from journalism. And you're not going to get the right answer anyways. From someone that's wanting questions in advance, they're not going to be giving you the truth.
Okay, so you're coming down to what we call point-counterpoint. And that's what we're not seeing a lot of, especially in the UFO field. Is it because there are very few, if any, journalists out there who know whom to even talk to? I mean, I remember working back in the day. If you couldn't find a story or find somebody to interview, you dug for it. You just didn't run with it and say you only give one point of view. Yet that's what we are seeing in regards to this. Bruce, I'm going to get you to hold on. I'll get you to answer that question right after this as we go to break on Spaced Out Radio. We got Bruce Claggett for one more hour, news editor of News 1130 Radio in Vancouver, journalism and UFOs. More on this hot topic coming up.
Finish off your weekend and kick off your new week with me, Everett Themer, right here on Spaced Out Sundays. I'm going to bring you great guests, a little bit of snark, and plenty of information to think about. But don't worry, there's going to be plenty of woo as well. We are going to hit everything in the paranormal and supernatural, including the odd psychic Sundays. So tune us in on Sunday, 9:06 p.m. Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
We're bringing you something new to the documentary world. Beyond the Spectrum will take you on an historic tour of topics like no other. Sasquatch, UFOs, government secrecy, and more, keeping you on the edge of your seats through the eyes of legendary truth seekers like Steve Bassett, Richard Dolan, Dr. Jeff Meldrum, and Jack Kasher. Head on over to Amazon Prime or Tubi TV and check us out. Please leave a comment for the filmmakers on their film's Amazon page. Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Come get spooked at the 4th Annual Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar-Woolley, Washington, Saturday, September 28th. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. Speakers include Mike Morin and Jason Jordan, R. Keith Andrews, and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and so much more. There will be workshops and a VIP roundtable. Get early bird tickets now at fmparacon.com. Looking for the stories of the strange and weird that you will find hard to find anywhere else? Check out the SOR Newswire on our website. Our writers, led by Captain Shirk, are scouring the world for the oddest and most bizarre stories we can find. Everything from weird crime to suspenseful and paranormal. We're working hard for you to bring you the most intriguing news of your day. Check out the SOR Newswire at spacedoutradio.com today.
Coming up this September 21st and 22nd, all UFO eyes will be focused on Toronto for the 4th Annual Alien Cosmic Expo. Come listen to some of the biggest names and experiencers in ufology: Travis Walton, Paul Hellyer, Richard Dolan, Paula Harris, Grant Cameron, Randy Kramer, and Spaced Out Radio's own Dave Scott. Tickets are on sale now at aliencosmicexpo.com.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/spacedoutradio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Move over, brother, and let me own Saturday night. This is Rich Giordano, and I'm inviting you to tune on in to Spaced Out Saturdays starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern, where I'm going to bust open the lids on everything paranormal. Why? Because we want answers, and I'm the guy who's going to deliver those answers to you. Join the chat rooms, and we'll see you this Saturday. Just be there. No, really.
Every night on Spaced Out Radio, we have places for you to hang out. Hi, this is Carl. Join our SOR Space Travelers group on Facebook for live chat. On Twitter, using hashtag Spaced Out Radio. You can also join us in our Spreaker chat room. Check us out on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR. All of our archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. By the way, I'll be watching you at your window until you do. Bye!
Welcome back to the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio. Tonight, I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. A reminder to all of you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. More coming very, very soon. Tonight we are talking media, mainstream, UFOs, journalism. Bruce Claggett, news editor with Vancouver's News 1130 Radio, is with us. Now, Bruce, right before the break, we were getting into the mainstream coverage in regards to the topic of UFOs, and you said that you have covered UFO stories if they are pertinent to what the public is seeing. So my question is, has anybody in your newsroom ever contacted the Canadian government, your journalists, considering that this has been a hot-button topic of late? Has anybody called the Canadian government or the Canadian Ministry of Defense asking what the stance is and Canada's role in ufology?
That's a really good question. And the short answer is no. And before you say, well, okay, you talked about this, this, and this, but how come you're not doing that? Well, let's face it, there are hundreds of stories that we want to follow up with the Canadian government. We have to be picky and choosy. When it comes to what we put onto our radio newscast, it's linear. It's not like a website where you can go and choose your topic. You have to, all falls into 30-second blocks of different stories. And some of those stories have to be heard by the most people. So it's not our place. There will be some stories that we cannot cover, and a lot of them are national stories. And this is a national story. That being said, we still have a curiosity in it, and the media on the whole, which I'm a member of, needs to be asking those questions. And what people need to do, especially members of your audience, and doesn't matter what side of the border they're on, find the media organizations that do investigative, long-form journalism and ask them if they're asking these questions and be on them. I mean, there are 2 television programs that are national with the networks here in Canada that come to mind. I'm not going to name them, but anybody on this side of the border probably knows what I'm talking about. One uses investigation right in their name and talks about their group of reporters that track down stories. Well, this is one to start asking questions about, I would say. And the other is a long-established, long-running report or a series of reports that takes a look at one topic that needs to be investigated. And there's usually something that's been a letdown. Well, it's right up their alley. So, yes, there is a place for this to be asked in the mainstream media. And it's right within their scope and purview to start taking a look at this as a story and to start to hold those questions that you're talking to me about, ask our federal government. They should be. They should be asking those questions, and they should be documenting and saying, why are we asking them, and showing examples and talking to people who have the curiosity. And there's something in there and people are interested in it.
Well, I mean, on the flip side, if you're covering the story, shouldn't the follow-up be done? Isn't that a reporter's job?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And if you touch on the story, and if you ask one question, you can't let it just die there. You have to ask the better questions, and you have to follow up. You can't let it go. We get back into controlling the narrative, and governments do control the narrative. They do it all the time. So when you give an answer, you can't just have a reporter or a team of journalists just say, oh, okay, move on. No, you ask yourself, is that answer making sense to me? And if the answer is no, then ask follow-up questions. And it could come down to two things. It could be a government that's hiding information or not dealing with information in a proper way, or simply they may not know. But either way, ask them. You have to do that. That's part of what we need to be doing as active members in our society, as curious and people that want answers about potentially very, very important issues, right?
Well, that's what I would think. I mean, let's face it, next to Jesus Christ coming down from the heavens above, all right, the fact of are we alone in this universe is mankind's second greatest story. And the fact that there are so many in the mainstream media who do not want to investigate or take this subject very seriously is ludicrous.
Well, and we talk about in news, local stories, national stories, and global stories. I guess there really is a fourth, which is beyond global stories. And we never even give that a thought. Why are we not asking about stories that go beyond Earth, beyond our globe? National, local, global stories, is that all there is? That's got to be a point where, as journalists, you say there's something more to it. And we know that there's something more to it because life exists because of forces that are outside of the Earth. We know that. You and I exist because of things, because of our solar system and our atmosphere and just these very things that are much bigger than just global levels. So if that's true, and if there is something more, and we've got to think there is something more outside of the Earth, why aren't we asking those questions? Why is that not part of the media? Or are we so close that we only work in this little ball that's the Earth? I don't know. It's a really good question. But I think it starts with finding out who is doing the investigative pieces. Who are the journalists that declare themselves investigative reporters? Are they doing a good job, or are they really kind of narrowed into what type of investigations they do?
Well, I mean, I think it also comes down to the fact that they may not want to cover this topic. And because this topic has been ignored for so long, decades, to be a matter of fact, that they don't want to be the person who asks that question. I mean, if you go back,
why don't they want to? What
you tell me? You tell me. Why aren't they being asked?
Maybe I'm too close to it. Why would they not want to? What's the danger here?
Embarrassment.
What's the elephant in the room here?
Here's the example I was going.
Okay.
Here's the example I was going to give. Okay, John Podesta in 2015, when he joined Hillary Clinton's campaign, was egging the media on for weeks to ask her about UFOs. It took almost 8 weeks before anybody even had the audacity to ask her the UFO question. And that was front page news everywhere in the United States. Everywhere. Yeah. It shouldn't have taken 8 weeks. The reporters didn't want to ask it because they didn't want to put their own credibility and their newspapers or their radio station or their television station's name on the line as being the UFO person. George Knapp talks about this quite frequently, where 30 years after Bob Lazar, he is still heckled. Doesn't matter how many Emmys he's won or Peabody Awards that he has won for his investigative journalism. There are many colleagues of his who think he's a nut bar for chasing down this UFO story. And he's been pretty damn good at it.
So be it right or be it wrong, the UFO story has been the dominant feature for a period of time in the checkout stands on newspapers that were thought to be kind of like your gossip rags.
Yes.
And it was supposed to be the kind of like food for the masses of a certain type of lowbrow person. And typically what they would do is they would put something outlandish on there that was just kind of a piece of garbage picture on there of some space alien that's kind of like a 1950s version. And we know much more than that now. But that was, I think it gave anyone that really takes UFOs seriously, took it in a whole different direction. And people still look back at it and think, okay, they're talking about UFOs. It's got to be the rags at the checkout counter. And they dismiss it. And we've got to get beyond that.
All right. How do we do that? If we're not willing to ask the questions, if we are wanting to throw a bunch of softballs at UFO groups out there, how do we get beyond that to get the real information with the story?
Here's my bigger question. How curious are we as people? And where does our curiosity end? Are we curious like what's going on in our community, in our neighborhood? Are we curious about what's going on in our country? Are we curious about what's going on in the neighbor's country, the globe? Does it stop there? Or does it stop at any one of those points? And does it stop with only things that we can see, feel, understand, and those are kind of the things that we accept? Or do we have curiosity where we say there may be things we don't know much about?
True.
And if we start to ask those questions, everyone wants approval. Everyone wants to be seen as bright or seen as normal or seen as, fitting in. If we ask the questions that seem to be outside of the norm, that don't fit in, that don't seem normal, that have been associated with jokes in the past, is that a detriment to asking really good questions? And is the media to blame for that? The media survives and dies on its credibility or its perceived credibility. So do media organizations want to play it safe? Do they really want to go too far into a realm that other people are not going into? Or are they going to be bold and ask really good questions, and when things don't make sense and there is something that needs to be asked and pushed on, going to take up the cause? I don't have an answer for that.
Bruce Claggett is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We are talking journalism and UFOs. Part of the issue that I had and have had with the way this story has come out is the group TTSA brought out Luis Elizondo, who ran this ATIP program for the government. All right. They brought him out. They brought out David Fravor, commander of a fleet of, I always want to call them CF-18 Hornets, but they're not, because that's a Canadian version, the F-18 Super Hornets. And he's the one who came out with this experience. My question is, when you get handed the guy who ran the program, and from all intents and purposes that I have heard about Lou Elizondo, and I've been on record for this in the past, is I believe the guy. I believe that he worked there, and I believe that there's a lot of stuff that he would love to tell us but can't. And you bring out the pilot. Where's the counterpoint? Where's the counterpoint in the story? Or are these stories run without any counterpoint because The media was caught off guard with this story. They were literally handed two very, very favorable chess pieces in this story that they didn't have to look for.
Oh, that's a great question. And at what point do you look for the counterpoint or the balance or the questioning in there? Or at what point do you say, this person or this source with a certain amount of credibility is raising a certain question, and that's enough for us to put it out there right now, and when we get a chance, we'll follow up with a counterpoint if we can find it. Those are difficult decisions that are made by journalists and people that run newsrooms and editorial decision makers every single day. It's not easy. And at what point are you reflecting or staying true to the brand of your media organization, or going off into an area that is too far into a specialty field? Those are other questions that really play into it. No simple answer there, Dave.
But in a story which could potentially be as big as this, when you have a government official saying, I ran the program, this is true, you would think that in real journalism, and I'm not saying that everything is fake, but in the real journalistic world, that there would be a plethora of follow-ups on that, trying to get information. And, here's the other thing. I mean, this goes back in history as well, because when other questions or other topics have come up, nobody's asked the follow-up question in regards to the history. What really happened at Roswell? What really happened at Shag Harbor here in Canada?
But it's such a topic that even though the media is not touching it, we know that there's interest in this. And it's not just people like you and people that follow this on a nightly basis. It's the public. People are curious about it. Hollywood gets it, be it right
Absolutely.
or be it wrong.
So does television.
But certainly television gets it. Why do you think there are programs that write stories around it? Because people are curious, and they've got kind of a feeling that something wasn't really answered, and there's more to it. So at least it's kind of like art and music. Quite often it exposes problems in society where questions were never answered, and you bring it out through art, music, and television sometimes. And Roswell's one of them.
Well,
That's why I think I can name three or four different programs in the last 10 years that have been made based on Roswell.
We just had this entire conversation last week in regards to the idea that, paranormal television or UFO television is some of the highest rated television in history. It's competing with the NFL and Monday Night Football.
Yep.
All right. And yet, when it comes to radio or when it comes to mainstream covering this topic, nobody wants to touch it outside of a certain show. And yet there are thousands of radio stations in North America that don't cover that show. And yet the money, if these conglomerates or these mom and pop stations wanted to make money, this is a hot button topic that shows and has proven over and over again that the minute you talk about it, the minute you view it, people are listening and paying attention. So for the greediness of the media side, the business side of it all, why do you think that this topic is still considered so taboo?
Because we put up our shields. We put up our shields to protect our own credibility. I've always thought that you could do a successful talk show by sitting somebody down and saying, okay, take your shield down right now and tell me, are you a curious person? Yes or no? And if the answer is yes, let's get real. Let's spend the next hour and get super real, open our mind, and ask questions. And let's not care about the opinions of other people. Let's just open our minds and ask really good questions and find out where we're at. And if we're not getting answers, or if we think that we've got everything solved and there are no answers or no questions out there, correct me if I'm wrong, if we think we've got all the answers and there is no such thing as a UFO. There's no paranormal. There's nothing out there. And we've got all the answers. If that is the reality out there, let's just say, okay, that's fine. That's where we're at as a society. But I don't think people are like that. And I don't think it's just people that listen to your program, Dave. I think there are many, many bright, intelligent people out there that say there's so much more than this. And they're curious. Mm-hmm. They just won't let their guards down. What happens if you let your guard down? Well, maybe you'll be caught up in some sort of movement and you'll be labeled a certain way, or you'll go down the path or belong to a cult or something like that. You know, maybe people are afraid. But I think there are a lot of stigmas in the past that have been associated with UFOs, kind of like your supermarket checkout counter is how it was shown in the media. That's where it lived in the media. And the people that read that were a certain type of people, and that's not you or me or anybody else, right? We're too good for that. And that's part of the problem.
We got about 2 minutes left before we got to go to break at the top of the hour here, as we're almost done 2 hours with you, Bruce. I mean, this is flying on by. So in your insight, from a journalistic standpoint, what should the mainstream media be doing in regards to covering UFOs or the paranormal in general? Let's stick with UFOs here, because that's the hot button right now. That's the one everybody's talking about.
Yeah, you bet. Let's be honest. Where does this belong? It belongs in investigation. It belongs in asking deeper questions, and it's a national story or international story. Are there programs and media outlets out there that deal with that? Yes. Do they deal with other topics that are kind of interesting? Yeah, sure. Are they taking on UFO stories to the degree that they should be? Absolutely not. They're shying away from it. And I think those programs, those journalists, those writers have to really open up and push. That's where it starts. And I think it starts with feedback from people, just approaching them, finding out who the investigators are, who the programs are, which journalists take a look at this and say, how come you're not asking this question? Yeah, approach it in the right sort of letter. Call me crazy, but. Or, hey, I know this may seem wacky, but I just have one question. Why are we not looking at this? And I think we've got to do more of that.
Do you think the media then, as we run out of time, you may have to answer this right after, do you think the media is prepared to cover this story? Professionalism says you should be.
Well, are we prepared for the answers? You can't handle the truth, Dave. Yeah, no, well, there you go.
Are you prepared for the questions to be asked?
I think the questions will be asked if there is enough interest in people wanting the questions. The follow-up questions are the important ones, and what to do with that when you start to get answers. That's where you have to go.
Are the journalists today skilled enough for that question? Because, according to George Knapp, there are very, very few investigative journalists left in the United States and probably in Canada as well.
Well, skilled is one way of looking at it. Skilled, having the time, having the resources, having the money. I mean, most journalists know how to do a Freedom of Information request and know how to go and pursue a story. Are they given the amount of time and backing to do it? That's something else. And some journalists aren't prepared. But most, given the right amount of leeway, would be able to. Absolutely.
All right. Bruce Claggett is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We got him for another 30 minutes as we enter hour 3 of the show. We got the Thought of the Dave and the SOR Newswire coming up as well. Journalism and UFOs. What needs to improve? More with Bruce Claggett coming up on SOR. Come get spooked at the 4th Annual Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar-Woolley, Washington, Saturday, September 28th. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. Speakers include Mike Morin and Jason Jordan, R. Keith Andrews, and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and so much more. There will be workshops and a VIP roundtable. Get early bird tickets now at fmparacon.com.
Come hang out with me, Little Richie G, as I take over the airwaves on Spaced Out Saturdays. This is Rich Giordano, and I'm going to bring you the most fun on the radio you can have with your clothes on. We're going to get to the heart of the subjects from UFOs to what's going on in the paranormal and everything in between. So come join me at spacedoutradio.com, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, for the fastest 3 hours of your week.
At spacedoutradio.com, we have a little bit of everything for you to stay up late. So while you're there, check out our SOR Newswire, where our team brings you stories of the weird and strange to the WTF from around the globe. News on Bigfoot, UFOs, paranormal, Darwinian-type crime tales. It's the stories that the mainstream media usually won't touch. Well, we got them all on the SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
A little bit of science, a little bit of skepticism. Add a dash of snark and you have the makings of Spaced Out Sundays with me, Everett Thiemer. Together we will look into the reality of the paranormal with an open eye and rational thought. Oh, did I mention there'll be plenty of woo as well? Your time spent with Spaced Out Sundays will make the night even better. The chat rooms are open, 9:06 p.m. Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Every night on Spaced Out Radio, we have places for you to hang out. Hi, this is Carl. Join our SOR Space Travelers group on Facebook for live chat. On Twitter, using hashtag Spaced Out Radio. You can also join us in our Spreaker chat room. Check us out on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR. All of our archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. By the way, I'll be watching you at your window until you do. Bye!
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
we're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio. Looking for something new to push your limits? Look Beyond the Spectrum, a new docuseries featuring some of the best researchers in the world when it comes to everything from UFOs, government cover-ups, and Bigfoot in the forest. Truth seekers like Steve Bassett, Dr. Jeff Meldrum, Richard Dolan, as well as others all chip in to bring their knowledge to you. Beyond the Spectrum can be found on Amazon as well as Tubi TV. Tell us what you think on our Amazon page.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
Canada's largest UFO conference is ready to roll in Toronto this September 21st and 22nd at the Alien Cosmic Expo. This year is about the experience. Listen to the stories of Dave Scott, Travis Walton, Paula Harris, Grant Cameron, Ryan Stacey, Richard Dolan, Leslie Mitchell-Clark, and more. Get your tickets now at aliencosmicexpo.com.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for being with us. We want to give a shout out to everybody listening in Ridgecrest, California, KZFX 93.7 FM, WQEE 99.1 FM in Noonan, Georgia. Down in Texas, in Dangerfield on KDNF, AM 1560, UPRN 107.7 FM in New Orleans, and we're on in Reedsport, Oregon, KDUN AM 1030. On the digital side, hi to everyone listening in on Kingdom of Nye Radio and Revolution Radio. Don't forget, all of our archives are free for you at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Godiloquent. Godiloquent is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and keeping up to date on the SOR Newswire, which Captain Shirk updates daily. For the final time tonight, we introduce Bruce Claggett. He is a 30-year veteran of journalism in Vancouver, British Columbia. He has literally seen about 160 different stations across the province of British Columbia. Last 17 at News 1130 Radio as their news editor. And he has also taught journalism at the British Columbia Institute of Technology. We're talking UFOs and journalism. Has the story been covered correctly? Bruce, welcome back to the show.
Oh, it's great to be on your show. And I'm just, as you mentioned some of these radio stations, I'm thinking, it's so magical. I'm glad that some people are listening to me in cars tonight and in different parts of the states, and I hope they can look up in the sky and just hear this, this show that's coming through the airwaves. I know you're covered on so much more than the airwaves, but it's still magical for me.
It is kind of fun. You know, I remember when I think it was the 2002 Winter Olympics, and I was driving home from the radio station. And I don't know if a lot of people still do this, but I used to do this. Maybe you do this, is I would go on the AM dial. And if it was like around 12 o'clock at night, 1 in the morning, and I would just slowly move the digits one at a time to see what stations we could pick up. And I was absolutely blown away that here I was about half an hour outside of Vancouver, and I was picking up a radio station in Salt Lake City, Utah, listening to Olympic updates.
Probably KSL, yeah.
It was fantastic.
No, it's there's something magic about radio. And, I mean, for me, I'm a ham radio operator, but even just listening to stations on the regular AM and FM dial, especially AM, God, I love AM radio. But, just being able to look up in the sky and, on a starry night in the summertime and listen to a radio, I mean, that's magical. And it's, of course, on your mobile device and everything, still listening to it. But, especially the topics we talk about, that's just magic. There's something about that. And glad to be coming through the speaker tonight.
Question coming from Mike on Twitter, and I think it's very relevant. He says, Bruce, do you think the topic of UFOs might get slightly more traction if we rebrand from UFOs to UAPs? UFO is a turnoff out of the gate. UAP makes people ask questions.
Yep, Mike, you're absolutely right. And I see a lot of questions that he's asked on Twitter tonight, but that one really stands out for me. Yeah, there's a problem. UFOs got a bad rap. And if you believe in UFOs, I mean, that's almost like the joke. Hey, well, he believes in UFOs. There's a branding problem. What is a UFO? Well, UFO is so many things as we know it. But, I mean, the thing, it's got to be something like a flying saucer. It's something that belongs in these comic books. And, it's too many generations of having something that really was tainted in terms of the brand. And it gets away from a discussion and some real good curiosity and some wonderment. And, those are important things to have. And if you lose that just because of a bad brand, and UFO is a bad brand, then we've lost some of the discussion. So absolutely. And I know there was a little bit of a movement to switch over to UAPs, and there's a lot of merit to it, I think.
See, and I disagree with that. Because...
Oh, I know, because you're so deep into the UFOs.
Well, I mean, it's partially that. But I guess the big reason why is people understand the term UFO.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it just seems like the minute we start to politicize something, we have to rebrand it. That's my issue.
In radio, we say that there are two audiences. Quite often there's your P1 audience that thinks a certain way, and then there's the P2s and everything else down below. Your P1 really gets it, and your audience gets it, and really understands more. But there's this outer audience that really kind of tunes in and doesn't really get it, and to them, that's where the UFO brand really doesn't live for me. And I think there is that old flying saucer kind of like, what was the name of the director? I want to say Ed Wood, but not Ed Wood. Did all those cheap UFO-type movies back before I was born. Just this goofiness that kind of came around with flying saucers and UFOs. And we got to get away from some of that, and that's tainted. I mean, be it right or be it wrong, and it's wrong. UFOs have the brand is just so badly tarnished, I think, for the outer ring of the masses.
For the last 15 minutes that we have you, I want to change topics here. All right. And I know that we said we were going to talk about UFOs all night long, but I got reminded of this by one of my listeners, Trip, in our Spreaker chat room. And you and I have talked a lot about this topic, and that is the missing feet that are being washed up along the coast of British Columbia and along the coast, some in Washington State, some in Oregon, some have been found at the northern tip of California. This is a really, really weird topic because a lot of these people who are going missing, if we let's focus on Vancouver because that's where you are. How many reports have you got from people
we
who
counted
just
them at some point over the span of, I guess it's 10 years. It was up to 9 or 10 confirmed reports of feet actually found always in running shoes, by the way, and sneakers, and always just 1 foot. So this is just the remains of a foot in a running shoe that's found usually on a beach, an ocean beach. And, I think we got up to 10 last count.
Okay, so the grotesque side of this story is that these people have somehow drowned one way or another. Maybe they were murdered and dropped into the ocean, and their bodies sank, and the bottom feeders, whether they're fish, whether they're crustaceans, crabs, lobsters, whatever it may be, are feeding off of this. And the foot is protected by the running shoe, and that's what goes, because most running shoes today float. That's what causes one of the feet to all of a sudden leave the actual body to
Exactly,
float.
And everything else is not protected. The foot in the running shoe is the only thing that is.
All right. What do you think is causing this? Is this suicide? Is this depression? Is this foul play? Or is there more ominous reporting that hasn't been confirmed on this yet?
Well, the BC Coroner Service came out pretty definitive on this, and they said it's suicide. It's people jumping off bridges, and that's fine. Doesn't exactly explain some of the ones found off of Vancouver Island, and some of the locations where the currents really don't work right, and they're not downstream from a bridge. I don't know. It's been a while since these have turned up. There have been a couple of hoaxes, too, that were proven to just be people replicating this and putting a running shoe with a animal foot in it or stuffing it full of twigs or something like that, or an old animal bone. But, no, these have turned up on beaches all the way from the Fraser River near Vancouver all the way down into Washington State and Puget Sound, and it's something that only has, and here's my thing, to the best of my knowledge, only happened in one geographic region, the Pacific Northwest, southwestern British Columbia, both fronting onto each other, and nowhere else in the world. So, the running shoes are all over the place. Are the currents here or conditions just the right combination? I don't know. There are a lot of factors that would have to come together to make it just a regional thing. It's a pretty good mystery, Dave.
Do you think there is a serial killer at large that they don't want to spook the public because they have absolutely no clues as to why this is happening?
Well, a serial killer that cuts off feet?
Or throws them into the ocean and then eventually lets nature take its course.
I don't know. I don't know. On the surface of this, just lack of a better term, but on the surface of this, I would have to say it probably is as the BC Coroner Service suggested. But the
personal
journalistic curiosity, the journalistic curiosity says that's fine, but there are bridges all over the world. There are suicidal people all over the world. There are the same brands of running shoes all over the world. There are ocean currents all over the world. Why is it that only in one location we've got 10 separate victims of foul play? That makes no sense. But no one has an answer. Is there a movement to hide it? To hide the answer? I don't know. But then again, we know that we've had in British Columbia a serial killer that was protected for years, or not protected, but a lack of police candor allowed a serial killer to prey off people on the downtown east side of Vancouver for years before being caught. So maybe there is something more. It certainly is something that doesn't make a lot of sense, and I hate to use the term there are more questions than answers, but there are more questions than answers in this one. I mean, 10 different victims, about 10, and nowhere else in the world.
Well, I do have to say, and that's the reason why is, because of the actions and or inactions of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police and the Vancouver Police Department regarding the case of Willie Pickton and the murderous spree that went on for years, leading to potentially 63 innocent women being killed and chopped up. I mean, let's be honest. They were chopped up. They were put through a wood chipper. It was grotesque. And
no, they weren't put through a wood chipper, but they ended up on a pig farm. Yeah.
Some of them were. You know that. I was there that day. I had to bring the hair. I had to bring the hair new batteries.
Yeah.
Right, but nonetheless, we do know that the ball was dropped there, and in order to keep any kind of public outcry, wouldn't it be better to keep it quiet if there was a serial killer working?
Well, here's the reality. In that case, it was people working in the sex trade that happened to be indigenous women from a lower socioeconomic background, and when there are stories of people disappearing from the downtown east side, often working in the sex trade, often dealing with addictions issues, when it got reported, it was ignored. It wasn't like they were going missing from the nicest, whitest suburbs around Vancouver, and the police inaction was not only ignored, but when there was the commission into it, the former justice, well-respected justice that looked into it, there are a lot of questions about whether he covered for his own friends. So, it's something that was ignored. Can this also be ignored in other cases? Yeah, probably, maybe. I don't know. But let's look at the facts. And I come back to this. You've got feet found on different beaches, washed up in these shoes from about 10 different victims over a period of as many years. What's the story there? Did they all jump off bridges? Maybe. But as I say, bridges exist all over the world, and you don't have feet washing up on the shores. Do we just have, body-eating feet ignoring sea life? I just don't think that's something that's just around here. There's something more to it.
So you won't confirm or deny whether you think there's a serial killer working in the Vancouver area?
Oh, I think there probably is a serial killer still working in the Vancouver area that probably worked with Willie Pickton. But do I think it's connected to the feet case? I don't know. Do I think the feet case has something else involved in it that I'd like to know about? Yep. Do I think we'll ever have an answer? Nope. Sometimes there just aren't any answers.
And that's what's sad about it, because for a lot of these people, when you hear, when they finally identify the bodies, you hear about a lot of these cases where, people who go missing, they never had troubles with depression or anxiety. They weren't suicidal. They weren't in trouble with the law. They seemed to keep good friends, and they weren't involved in any type of criminal activity. They are just gone, Bruce. They are gone.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, you hear about their feet washing up on shore, and who knows where the body is. It's probably gone. They'll never see their family member again, except the 1 foot that they get to bury. And this is what is driving a lot of people crazy.
Now, some of those feet, I believe, were matched with victims, a very small number, but maybe a couple of them. But most of them, they don't know who they belong to, and still don't to this day.
So when you look at something like that, I mean, how do you not know if you have bone fragments? And correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm kind of ignorant to it, but doesn't bone have DNA in it?
Yeah, but you have to have that DNA registered. And hey, there are theories that were, I hate to use this term, floating around. But one of them was that these may have been tsunami victims from Asia. And the ocean currents carried it that far where only, guess what, a running shoe with a foot is going to be what's left of a victim that got carried by the Japanese current all the way across. So, it's there are different possibilities, and who's to say that one of those isn't right? But matching it up is almost impossible. And to look for DNA and have it against a registered piece of DNA, I don't know enough about the forensics behind that, but it seems almost unlikely.
So do you believe that it could have potentially been tied into some of these strange cases like what we see what happened with Picton?
Well, we still know this. In British Columbia, there are cases of lots of missing people that have never been found. And they have nothing to do with the Picton murders. There's in the interior of British Columbia, along what we now refer to as a highway of tears, there are still people, again, Indigenous women mostly, that have disappeared, and we don't know who's responsible for it. Period. So who knows? One thing we do know or do suspect is that the gender, by the appearance, size of the shoe and type of shoe and this sort of thing, does not appear to be necessarily female. So does it match up with those cases? To the best of my knowledge, probably not. But are there serial killers or a serial killer still at play in British Columbia? Yeah, you better believe it. And you talk to anyone that's got any common sense in the newsroom that's working around Vancouver, and they'll say, yeah, it's something that still has not been solved. And perhaps there is not the will or the ability to solve it.
What do you mean by the will?
Well, in order for there to be a will, you have to have people with the amount of influence and power to say that our victims, our daughters in this case, are missing, and we need more action and get political action and constant political action to affect change within the RCMP to go ahead and look into these cases. And not just, pay lip service to it and say, what, these women are missing, and here's a wanted background of a person that hasn't been seen for this many years, and we believe that this person may or may not have been involved in the sex trade and may have had addiction issues and a whole bunch of other victim blaming. There has to be more than that. If you had, in my community, if you had a dozen women who were unaccounted for from Tawasin, which is a nice suburb south of Vancouver, and if they are all white, you better believe that there would be more action.
We got 90 seconds left with you tonight, and I want to say a big thank you for you coming on in, filling in as our originally anticipated guest, Barbara DeLong.
You see, I thought I offended you years ago because you haven't invited me back for years, and then suddenly I get an invitation, and I thought, wow, this is incredible.
Well, hey, I got to play hard to get every now and again. It's like you picking up your phone to call me anytime. I'm lucky if I get a phone call a year. One phone call a year compared to about 70 or 80 going the other way.
I think it's only because I butt dialed you. I think it all started with a butt dial.
It totally did. Today's entire interview started with a butt dial on FaceTime. That's exactly how it played out. But
Dave, it was my pleasure.
Do me a favor here. Do me a favor.
Yeah.
Tell everybody where they can find you, your information, your social media,
absolutely.
your ham.
If you're a ham radio enthusiast, check out, and this is going to be a small number of people, but if you're into ham radio, search out VE7 HHI, Victor Echo 7 Hotel India. My name is Bruce Claggett. You can check that on the QRZ, the website, and see my ham radio setup for VE7HHI Bruce Claggett. You follow me on Twitter. I love to give all the interesting things I'm doing. That's at Bruce Claggett. That's BruceClaggett, 2 G's and 2 T's, at Bruce Claggett. Love having followers, and I'll try to follow you back. And I hope that I end up back on your show, Dave. It goes too many years.
A lot of fun, Brucey Bruce. Thank you so much. Hey, coming up next, we have the SOR Newswire and the Thought of the Dave. Stay tuned.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
The Call of the Wild is in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is one of the hottest bars and restaurants in the city. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose will rock you like a hurricane all night long. Great food with everything on the menu at $6.95 near the corner of Nelson and Granville. Get your horns up and come rock with us. The Moose Vancouver, the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio. At spacedoutradio.com, we have a little bit of everything for you to stay up late. So while you're there, check out our SOR Newswire, where our team brings you stories of the weird and strange to the WTF from around the globe. News on Bigfoot, UFOs, paranormal, Darwinian-type crime tales. It's the stories that the mainstream media usually won't touch. Well, we got them all on the SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
We are getting ready to relaunch the SOR Space Travelers Club at spacedoutradio.com. For $5 a month, you can join us for a plethora of features found nowhere else. Hang out in a private chat room during the show and after party. You can check out some exclusive content and a store specifically for you, as well as a private listener forum where you can post your thoughts, stories, and pictures. The SOR Space Travelers Club, coming soon to spacedoutradio.com.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new, with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
Every night on Spaced Out Radio, we have places for you to hang out. Hi, this is Carl. Join our SOR Space Travelers group on Facebook for live chat. On Twitter, using hashtag Spaced Out Radio, you can also join us in our Spreaker chat room. Check us out on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR. All of our archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. By the way, I'll be watching you at your window until you do. Bye!
Finish off your weekend and kick off your new week with me, Everett Thiemer, right here on Spaced Out Sundays. I'm going to bring you great guests, a little bit of snark, and plenty of information to think about. But don't worry, there's going to be plenty of woo as well. We are going to hit everything in the paranormal and supernatural, including the odd psychic Sundays. So tune us in on Sunday, 9:06 p.m. Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Come get spooked at the 4th Annual Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar-Woolley, Washington, Saturday, September 28th. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. Speakers include Mike Morin and Jason Jordan, R. Keith Andrews, and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and so much more. There will be workshops and a VIP roundtable. Get early bird tickets now at fmparacon.com.
Canada's largest UFO conference is ready to roll in Toronto this September 21st and 22nd at the Alien Cosmic Expo. This year is about the experience. Listen to the stories of Dave Scott, Travis Walton, Paula Harris, Grant Cameron, Ryan Stacey, Richard Dolan, Leslie Mitchell-Clark, and more. Get your tickets now at aliencosmicexpo.com.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Glad to have each and every one of you with us. Reminder to all of you that if you have missed most of this show or others, you can always go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Speaking of the news, let's get right to it, shall we? The news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR Newswire at the back end of every show, where we get to the weird, the strange, the wacky. And we're going to get into it. We're going to make some news right here, because tonight we have named our brand new Spaced Out Sunday host. Now, this is a familiar name to many of you who've been around SOR for a long time. You've heard the name Everett Themer. Everett is a media guy out of south of Chicago. I think it's south of Chicago. And we did a test with him last night to make sure that his audio equipment would be working well. And Everett comes with a multitude of experiences in the media, working behind the scenes, as well as doing some writing campaigns as well. He has a plethora of experience when it comes to it. He's worked for Skeptical Inquirer, I believe, and he's also been our former news director before Captain Shirk took that position over, and he's been a good friend and colleague of this show. He's a very brilliant guy, and I can think of very few people who I'd want in that position. Very, very few. And to be able to have Rich Giordano on Saturday nights now, followed up by Everett Themer on Sundays, I think we have a great, great impact in the community now. Going 7 days a week, 9:06 Pacific until midnight Pacific. It's 12:06 a.m. until 3 a.m. Eastern, 7 nights a week. We are going to be very, very thrilled to have Everett start hosting this Sunday. And, you know, it's been a tight-knit secret since we have tried to, when we made our changes just a few weeks ago to weekend programming. But the good part about it is there will be no more recordings ever. I shouldn't say ever because it may happen. But we have enough overlap now where if I end up going to on holidays, Rich can fill in or Everett can fill in. If Rich is off, I can fill in or Everett. And if Everett's off, Rich or myself can fill in. So it's very, very cool to add these two guys to our broadcast team. It makes us very, very strong. It makes us, I think, better and more professional in our broadcast and our attitude. Now, the one thing that I like with Everett is he's a little snarky. He's into the science. He's into the skepticism. But he's open-minded enough where maybe once a month we're going to bring back Psychic Sundays and people can call in and get readings because I know that's very popular with many of you. And I'm very excited. So congratulations to Everett Themer for joining Rich Giordano on Saturdays and bringing a all-star weekend show to Spaced Out Radio, and it makes me relax because these are two guys in there that I can have where I can relax. I can officially have my weekends off, and I can chill out and have fun. You're going to love the entertainment. You're going to love the fact that they are very, very inclusive of all of you. Just give them a little bit of time to get used to working all the different chat rooms and compiling their OCD like I have to make sure that they're not missing anything on Twitter or in our Revolution Radio chat room or our Spreaker chat room or the SOR Space Travelers Club. It is a big, big hole to fill. It really is. And both Rich and Everett know that they got to bring their A games or at least their B plus games every single night because Lord knows it's very difficult to bring their A games. But we are very, very excited to add Everett to the team. He's going to do amazing, and I'm looking forward to it. Very much looking forward to it. Also, one other note, I want to say thank you to everybody. So for those of you who haven't been following my last 24 hours on the internet, my little doggy, Zero, Noelle Peterman, died yesterday. And she went out the exact same way I think she would. She loved eating. She got so excited to eat. Even though she wasn't a chubby dog or a fat dog, she loved eating. And she went out the way she probably would want to. We found her unconscious on the floor of our kitchen after eating a hot dog. And instead of chewing it, she swallowed a couple of big pieces. And I tried to revive her, gave her CPR, got the hot dog that was lodged in her throat, but it was too late. And it sucked. It really, really sucked. And that was my little cuddle monkey. And the love and support I got on Twitter and Facebook from many of our listeners was absolutely fantastic because, you know, I have 3 dogs. Well, now, unfortunately, I have 2. And my dogs are a very, very important part to our family. And I'm a big animal lover. I'm a big dog lover. And I always wanted dogs. And to be able to say that I have, you know, had 3 great dogs, I was proud of that. But she was my only little one. And the other 2 are German Shepherds. Well, one's a German Shepherd and the other one's a German Shepherd Cross. But, and Doug, one of the German Shepherd Crosses. Where is he? He's right in front here. There he is. He comes to work with me every night. His work is laying in front of my desk in the studio here. So, to lose my little cuddle monkey in Zero, it hurt. And I held her for about, 20 minutes before I, put her in the ground. We dug a deep, deep hole for her, unfortunately. And, it sucks. It really sucks. But I want to say thank you for the love and the and the kind photos. I asked everybody to send a picture of their fur babies, even though I don't like that term. I'm going to use it, fur babies, to show some love back for my beloved little Zero. And you guys did. And us as a family, we looked at each and every one of them, each and every one, and saw that that emotion that came through. And just want to say thanks to everybody for doing that. It's been a hard 24 hours here, but it sucks. And like I said last night when we were doing the test show with Everett, we as humans, in my opinion, for the most part, don't deserve dogs. They are way too loyal. They are way too friendly to their masters. They are way too good for us. You think we worry about everything in this world, whether it's putting food on our table, a roof over our head, drama, computers, internet, bills, what we drive, the style that we look like. And it doesn't matter whether we're gorgeous and knockout models or we are looking like Dave, which is just your average human being. All right? The dogs love us nonetheless. The excitement they have when they get to see us, we don't deserve that. We really don't. So, if you're looking for a dog, do me a favor. Do what I did. I got Zero in an animal shelter when she was a puppy. She was only about 8 weeks old. Head to your local animal shelter. See what it takes to adopt a dog or a cat if you're allergic to dogs, or any type of animal that just needs a home. Most of them just want a home to be loved, and it's always a good thing to do. Never mind the puppy mills or anything like that. Just go to your local shelter and go find somebody who's going to love you more than you could ever love it, because that's what I got out of Zero. That's what I get from my other two dogs, Doug and Shadow. And I'm very proud that they're part of our family. All right, let's get to it. Speaking of animals, how about the government of Denmark? They are spending $1.6 million to buy the country's last 4 circus elephants to give them a proper retirement as the government moves to ban wild animals in circuses. Food and Fisheries Minister Mogens Jensen said a ban on wild animals in circuses is expected later this year. The ministry said over the weekend there were no immediate plans as to where to put Ramboline, Lara, Junga, and Jenny, but applicants willing to take the mammals should offer a timely takeover and proper welfare. In the meantime, Animal Protection Denmark would ensure their welfare until then. Circus area manager Benny Bernardino says he was so sad to have to say goodbye to its elephants, but he was happy that they would get a good retirement. The 4th elephant belonged to Circus Trapez. About time. These elephants, they've worked hard. Love elephants. Go enjoy retirement. This is a story that just will not go away. We are only 18 days away from Storm Area 51. And for the second time this month already, actually in August, commissioners in a rural Nevada county have pre-signed an emergency declaration ahead of the Storm Area 51 event that has drawn more than 2 million RSVPs on Facebook. Nye County commissioners voted 4-0 to approve the declaration in preparation for the mysterious affair that could draw thousands of curious visitors to the desert. Commissioner John Koenig confirmed the board passed the preemptive declaration, but he declined to comment directly on all questions. And reports are saying that, this is being taken very seriously. California resident Maddie Roberts created the event in June after listening to an episode of the Joe Rogan Experience podcast. The tongue-in-cheek event, scheduled for September 20th, quickly generated millions of accepted invitations. Nye County is home to Amargosa Valley, the original site of the Area 51 raid, but the event has been shifted to Lincoln County in the town of Rachel, the self-proclaimed UFO capital of the world. Rachel is located on State Route 375, dubbed the Extraterrestrial Highway since 1996. Yeah. Earlier in August, commissioners in Lincoln County also voted to pre-sign an emergency declaration which allows the state to supply resources in the event that a rural county needs help. The actual Area 51 site is a classified military facility set inside a test and training range in Nellis Air Force Base, roughly the size of Connecticut. Intrigue surrounding the impenetrable desert compound for decades has fueled conspiracy theories at local lore as to what actually goes on there. Why can't they just say aliens? That's what they all want. It's all about the aliens, man. All about the aliens. All right. Another animal story? Or do we go to Florida Man? Let's go to Florida Man, because we got to get to the thought of the day. A photo of Florida Man was taken as he filled 9 plastic buckets with gasoline ahead of Hurricane Dorian's arrival. After filling them, he stashed the buckets of unleaded gas into the back of his SUV, which was not only illegal, but extremely dangerous. Florida Man's picture was posted on Facebook, and when they saw it, local officials used it as a PSA. If there ever was a picture that should be titled Bad Idea, this is it. The Highlands County Sheriff's Department wrote, "Don't be this person," they said. "We know everyone is anxious and trying to stock up on gas, but come on, this is dangerous and illegal." The reason for both warnings, obviously, gasoline is highly volatile and gives off flammable, noxious vapors that can easily escape into improper containers and fill an enclosed space. Enough fumes and a spark from just anything could trigger a massive explosion. Again, filling a non-approved container at a gas station is also illegal. If there were a car crash, the snap-on lids of Florida Man's buckets would do no good at all. He is not only endangering himself, but everyone in the vicinity if there was an accident. Even with sustained winds well over 100 miles per hour, heavy rains and flooding, stay safe during a hurricane will not be achieved by filling plastic buckets with gasoline. Thought of the Day happens every night at this time, where we ask a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses on the air because we love the audience participation around here. Today's Thought of the Day is as follows. We were originally going to have Barbara DeLong on the show, but she came down ill right beforehand. We're going to try and reschedule her for October. And we were going to talk about giants. So today's Thought of the Day is, what are your thoughts on what happened to the giants roaming the earth? Let's get to the Robinator right off the bat on Twitter. The giants died out like all life does, but they played their part in helping what the world looks like today. I think they wanted us to find their bones so they wouldn't be forgotten. Stefan, Dave killed them all. Says, hashtag I thank TTSA for slingshots. Rick, 9 to 10 footers, bones were found, but any above that, bow, that's a tall order to believe. I think he meant to say now. Yes, he did. Followed it up with a now. Cajun Medicine Man. There are stories about the man-eaters, in brackets giants, like the medicine wheel or sacred hoop. All things have their season. Arthur. I think that if giants turn out to be real, it just might be the thing to kill me. JW. Well, they beat the Jets 31-14. I wasn't prepared for that one. John. I believe the flood did them in. From what I can remember of my Catholic formation classes, aka indoctrination, God told Noah to build an ark when the world went to hell, let's just say. He used a different word. The giants were causing all sorts of carnage and also corrupting the hearts of men, so the Lord axed them. Not asked, axed them. Old Human Target. Tony Curtis and Kirk Douglas scared them off. That's funny. That is funny. Mike, maybe they receded back into imagination from manifestation, the same as fairies, gnomes, sprites, etc. Could be that Bigfoot is the replacement in the archetype. Oh, that's actually a good point. Very cool. They're here. On Twitter says, I think it used to be way easier to be larger like the dinosaurs when our atmosphere was more like a hyperbaric chamber. But when the atmosphere changed and it started raining more or whatever, then it got much harder to pump the blood through the larger bodies and they died off. Lucy, I believe they'd been titans, like the Greek mythological titans. But that's if you entertain the theory that the Greek gods are/were real in some sense relating to the phenomena. So with this theory, they were banished, I believe? ? Again, just a fun theory. Way to go, Lucy. Thanks for listening and playing part. Toby, our civilization has now officially stopped overgrown things from reaching its potential height. Blame Taco Bell. Space Aliens Direct. I pretty much rely on the story of the Nephilim and Noah. It seems I did not study human history until I got into public schools here on Earth. Oh, this is an alien speaking. Oh, my goodness. From the evidence I have read, it seems to be the story with the most fitting pieces. Lore is history, and the similarities between them is truth. To balk at that is ignorance. Oh, my goodness. That's deep. Ed, they did. The dinosaur megafauna. Bruce, how the mighty have fallen. Michelle, I believe like the dinosaurs, they went extinct. Marty, they all went to San Francisco to play baseball. Very cool. Very true, Marty. Troy believes it's because of the flood. Aliens Among Us. Let's see what they say. All right. Their bodies were destroyed in the flood, but now their spirits roam the earth and can unfortunately inhabit human beings to push forward with their agenda. That's where we're going to leave it tonight. Want to say a big thank you to everybody playing along. On the Thought of the Day, we will do it all again tomorrow on Facebook and Twitter. We also want to say a big thank you to Captain Shirk for getting our SOR Newswire together, which can be found at spacedoutradio.com. And to Bruce Claggett for coming on Spaced Out Radio to talk journalism and UFOs. Great show. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, in our chat rooms, wherever you may be. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. And I want to say a big thank you for sharing your evening with us, kicking off September with us, because together, my friends, we own the night. We're watching. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Have a good night, everybody. I'm out.